Hi, my name is Jerry Ashley Dixon, and this is the crisis analysis of the press briefing of President George Bush with FEMA Director Michael Brown and his praise of his efforts being made toward refugees housed at the Superdome after the 2005 Hurricane Katrina that hit the city of New Orleans. In August of 2005, Hurricane Katrina, a massive Category 5 hurricane, hit the state of Louisiana, leaving 80% of New Orleans flooded. An estimated 100,000 to 150,000 people were in the city, despite mandatory evacuation orders. The Superdome was used as a shelter of last resort, but it quickly became overwhelmed, housing 15,000 to 30,000 people without adequate supplies, power, food, or restroom facilities. The federal response to the refugees trapped at the Superdome has become one of the most criticized crisis communication failures in modern U.S. history. From media coverage, it was very evident that the human suffering that was taking place in New Orleans, and specifically the Superdome, was horrific. However, just a couple of days into this devastation, President George Bush, during a televised briefing, publicly praised FEMA Director Michael Brown, despite the obvious mismanagement that was occurring. I would like to analyze this crisis using a few social and national crisis theories. First, framing theory is a concept listed in the Crisis Communications Theories Primer and defined as how individuals interpret and give meaning to social situations. On page 2, it states, in national crises, leaders and media outlets frame events to shape public understanding and perception. In the artifact provided of President Bush's briefing with FEMA Director Michael Brown at seconds 17 through 19, Bush states, "Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job." This was a complete opposite view than that of the public. The administration was attempting to project secureness of the situation in New Orleans, yet the media was showing images of people stranded outside the Superdome without food, adequate shelter, or restroom facilities, and many collapsing from heat, illness, or lack of needed medications. This dissonance in messaging led to a failure in credibility as far as the public and their view of the federal government. The administration framed the situation as managed well, while in reality it was a total disorganization and mayhem which undermined the message legitimacy. Next, I want to focus on the situational crisis communication theory. This theory was developed to assess how organizations and governments should respond to crises based on public perceptions of responsibility and risk to organizational reputation. On page 2 of Crisis Communication Theories Primer, it states, if a government is perceived as responsible for a crisis, they must respond with strong corrective action and apology. In the video artifact of President Bush praising Michael Brown, the administration appears detached and non-empathetic to the actual plight of the victims of this catastrophic disaster. Bush states at seconds 8 through 11, right now the immediate concern is to save lives and get food and medicine to people. None of these life-saving actions were happening when he stated this. He was saying one thing and doing another. Finally, I want to use collective trauma theory. Erickson first used the term collective trauma to describe how disasters impact entire communities. According to the Crisis Communication Theories Primer on page 2, the theory states that shared crises like wars, terrorist attacks, or natural disasters can alter and shape group identity and lead to long-term societal shifts. Collective trauma theory spotlights lingering social and psychological effects of major crises. At seconds 4 through 6 in the video briefing with President Bush, he states, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to help later on. He goes on at seconds 19 through 27 amidst applause of those surrounding him, stating, the FEMA director is working 24 hours a day. These words fell very short to actual victims. The collective trauma experienced among the group that experienced this disaster together share an identity. Many who lived through the Superdome catastrophe call themselves Superdome survivors. The lack of empathy and the delayed action on the part of FEMA and other U.S. agencies has led to institutional distrust and skepticism toward government protection going forward. In conclusion, the crisis attached to Hurricane Katrina and the abandoned refugees at the Superdome exposes more than just operational failure. It shows skewed communication that affects people when they are the most vulnerable and the consequences thereof. Effective crisis communication will always be firmly rooted in honesty and empathy. Thank you.